Hey everybody, Beaner 3.0 here. Little bit of a different video today. I received Across the Universe for my Valentine's Day 2008. Long story. Watched it last night, had to watch it again. It's a lot to take in right away. So I kind of wanted almost a review, I guess. Let me just kind of cover the basics, and if you like it, check it out. If not, then your loss. So here goes. Across the Universe, if you haven't heard of it, is a remake of some Beatles songs. I think there's 16 original songs that they remade in that movie. They do their own versions of them. It's really cool. You know, a Scouser goes to America. A Scouser, if you don't know what that is, people from Liverpool, he call them Scousers. He goes there illegally to find his dad. He ends up jumping ship. His father doesn't know that he exists. Meets his dad, kind of ends up bunking there for the night, and he meets an Ivy League slacker. His name is Max, and they end up becoming really good friends. Jude, the main character's name is Jude, goes with Max Thanksgiving, meets his sister, ends up liking his sister. They take off to New York. In New York, they end up in a communal flat. They all live together. It's kind of like, you know, the late 60s, early 70s era with the Vietnam War. After a traumatizing experience, Lucy ends up coming to stay, and her and Jude end up falling in love. The movie follows the paths of the characters as they develop and almost find their way through the times, the Vietnam War, finding themselves and finding each other. I guess almost the minimalization of the instruments gives this a new feel to the songs. A lot of unorthodox means of getting the sounds that they want. I know the one, I think for it was Come Together, you know, there's that bass line with the doom doom doom, and they didn't really want to copy that. You know that it's coming if you've heard the songs. They left it to the imagination for you to fill it in your head, and went with like a bass line of almost, I think it was, what they said was, it was a rubber ball just being rubbed on the back of one of those stainless steel drums. So it makes really good sound. It works perfect for the bass line. It brings back the feel of the times. There was a lot of electric guitars, a lot of, you know, whammy bar of amps. You know, it's just really a hard electric sound in some of the scenes. I love how they downplay the instruments so you hear more of the actors' voices. They use a lot of the set as instrumentals. The windshield wipers start off the Come Together song. The drums the guy's using when they're doing the Hey Jude. A couple of songs I liked. I liked the song when they're at the bowling alley. I laughed my butt off when he whacked his head on the bowling alley. That's a really good one. The Come Together song is, you know, it occurs after a part in the movie, one of the songs that was just so heartfelt, so sincere, you know, you can't help but be drawn into it. During the Chicago riots and the Let It Be song, just that soul, the old gospel vibe that it has, it's just really touching. The other song was While My Guitar Gently Weeps. I love that they included that in there. Such a gorgeous song. I know a lot of you have seen that huge viral video with Jake. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but I don't even want to butcher it. But he does a ukulele in Central Park, and he does While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And that was the really first introduction to the song that I ever heard. It wasn't a huge song for the Beatles that I knew of, and you know, growing up. Hearing that song, especially with that guy's voice, the guy who sings While My Guitar Gently Weeps has an amazing voice. You'll hear it throughout the movie, and like I said, they all do their own singing. The choreography in this movie is amazing. If you're a dancer or you just appreciate the time and effort that goes into something like this, it's huge. I love the cinematography in the choreography as far as getting the wide-angled shots, on the rooftop scene especially, gorgeous shot of New York. You don't feel as if it's choreographed. It's really, I mean, you know that it is, you can obviously tell that it is, but it doesn't lend itself to making you think that it is and therefore distracting you from the feel of the movie. So it's really cool that way. My favorite choreographed scene, I would say, is probably the subway scene. Is huge. I mean, if you've ever been in New York, those people can, you know, there's like 8 different waves of people going and they never run into each other. So seeing that in a choreographed movie is kind of funny how they're imitating that. Come Together when he's arriving to New York City is also very greatly choreographed. I love how he's walking down the one stretch of street and, you know, just stuff going on all around him. It works perfect. And I love that high crane shot that they have in there. That's an amazing shot. I love it. When Max goes to report to Uncle Sam, trippy. a lot of movements, really just kind of lends itself to a surreal feel of the whole thing. If you're a dancer, definitely check out the extended scenes on the disc. Love the one where there's hundreds of people dancing down the street with the rain, and it works so well that way too. So check that one out. Keep an eye out for a couple of huge stars in this movie that I saw. I saw Joe Cocker. Awesome for the come together. He really, is great as far as, acting within that scene, but I still love his voice. Selma Hayek in that one, it was weird to see her in there. I didn't expect it. Eddie Izzard was a really, really weird one. I don't know if a lot of people know who Eddie Izzard is, but he's a hilarious British comic. And he does, if you've heard some of his work, like the Death Star Canteen, he has a really good sense of humor. And he's been on a couple of TV shows actually, but I didn't even hear of him. They didn't advertise it. They didn't, push his name, so it was crazy to see him. And the scene that he plays in is so trippy. You feel like you're on shrooms when you're watching it. It's just the most psychedelic trip out ever. And of course, how the late '60s, early '70s were. That's kind of how the feel they were going for, but just still, it's ridiculous. I love the Hey Jude scene. That's a Come Together and Hey Jude were my two favorites of all times, and those are the only Beatles songs I actually knew for a while. And it's really touching. It's almost like that song especially was made for that scene. The origin behind it was that it was wrote for John Lennon's son after he married Yoko Ono. And he didn't really like having a stepmom, and so Paul McCartney wrote it for him, but it really does lend itself to this scene. It's a really good scene. And the last scene, the rooftop scene, I think was just great. You just get so excited when he goes back up after everybody disappeared to sing, and he's a really good singer also. So it's just all around a great movie. I didn't see too much that I liked besides the fact that it did seem to take a little bit long for the scenes to develop, but great cinematography. The shots are amazing. Didn't have to do a lot of cutting for over the shoulders kind of shots. It was just, it just flowed very well. And I think maybe that's why it felt a little bit long, was just because it flowed so long. As a movie watcher, as all of us are, you are used to having those scenes cut, interdispersed, so you're doing an over the shoulder to a close-up facial shot, and it didn't have a huge majority of that. It still had it in the movie, but just not as much as you see in most movies. So, just all over great movie. Check it out if you like musicals. I grew up on Disney and musicals, just the way my family was. I grew up with 4 sisters, so but I'm still a bad man. I hope this helped out a little bit. Hope it gave you an insight into the movies. And, comment back. Let me know what you think about it. So, hasta Wiener 3.0.